Hey everyone, lovely to have you all here and welcome to Growth Uncut, a podcast that really focuses on different people's views around the world to look at how we can upgrade the justice system to create a better culture that is based on compassion and hope and effectiveness, I guess. So it's so lovely to be here with my dear friend Sid. And I'm really excited about the next half an hour where we're going to talk you through our venture and our idea, which is called the Growth app, and talk to you about what makes it magic, how you might want to get involved, how you might help us along the way. And yeah, just to celebrate, I guess, what I believe to be a key upgrade to justice through Justice 2.0. So, Sid, would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Thank you very much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Sid Singh, and by day, I work at an organization called the Forward Trust. I'm the service manager. And prior to joining the Forward Trust, I was working as head of marketing and partnerships with the lovely Sarah at Grow, Transform, Belong. And just between the two, we set up the Growth app. So, yeah, we'll go into it some more, I'm sure.
Yeah, lovely. So, what is the Growth app? Talk us through what, in a nutshell, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Growth app is really a bridge between prison, probation, and third sector charities. It's a platform that will allow people who are reintegrating back into society to find all the resources they need to access all the support that's available. And for us to be able to really start to see what's working well in certain places and where there are gaps, so that hopefully as a collective, we can start to make a real difference and we can start to increase that sort of level so that we can all grow in the sector.
Yeah, and for all of the academics out there that know about the literature around persistence, which is about how we can support people to effectively move away from crime. The third stage is belonging. And I guess, in terms of, for me, the Growth app was about how do we create an environment where people feel they can belong, where people can support other people in an environment that sometimes can be quite ruthless and heartbreaking and lonely. It is an opportunity where we can really kind of connect. And it's a bit like a TripAdvisor, isn't it? A TripAdvisor for growth services. So it's not about crime, it's not about criminological language, it's all about growing, flourishing, how we can grow in different ways, and ultimately how we can just 1% every day make some good decisions that are going to get us a little bit further down the road to feeling at peace and feeling happy. So yeah, growth up has got a really, I think for both of us, has got something kind of really close in our hearts. And I guess that brings me on to our next question, which is around the why.
So I'll leave you to do the other why, but my why was very simple. I think for a lot of people that are coming out, they don't want cookie cut solutions. They don't want one size fits all. And so someone like myself may not have needed help with relationships, but may have needed help with employment. Someone else may need help with coping or with finance benefit and debt or substance misuse or whatever it might be. So I think it's very much about trying to meet people where they are at that particular point in their life and helping them to move forward. So I found myself in a situation where I came out with a week before COVID. And so all of a sudden, I had no support. I had no one to report into, no contact. And my meaningful interventions were 15 minutes over a phone. But it made me realize that, again, for people who don't have the same support systems that I had, it's a lot harder. It's much more of a challenge. So what we discussed was how can we create something that looks good, something that is good, something that actually supports people in a way in which it will help them to grow. And I think what we've put together and what's come about is, sort of that dream in realization really is being able to create some way of being able to bring about all the good that is happening, because there's a lot of good that's happening. There's a lot of organizations that are really working from the heart. But I just feel, unfortunately, it's being done in silo. And I think we found this when you and I were going into lots of conferences, that there was a lot of echo chambers. There was a lot of work being done in silo. And actually, the people that were being failed were the people that just unfortunately didn't know, that weren't being connected, that were left to kind of fend for themselves. Yeah, I think this has come from a place of love. It's come from a place of how can we help one another along that journey. And yeah, that's my why. I just want to kind of use what's happened on my own journey to give back. And I hope that this will do that in some small way.
Yeah, yeah, that's lovely. And it's weird because you tell me your why often because we are at lots of different, I guess, outlets where we talk about the growth app. And every time I hear it, it just makes my heart warm. And like you say, that really resonates in terms of my why, in the sense of a lot of the time we have a lot to celebrate in terms of all the work that people do that is really positive. But I think there's also something about how do we manage the stuff that's really tough. And my why is, as you know, Sid, is centered around a guy that I knew really well. He was part of the Growth Project at prison. His name was Danny, and he was just wonderful. He was a creative, he was artistic. He used to make these little stars to staff and give them to them to recognize how wonderful they were. And he just, him in his own right was just brought about some really lovely kind of cultural changes in that prison. And he had loads of high hopes. Now, he was going out of prison and he was thinking, do you know what? I'd love to do more in terms of my art, in terms of helping. He'd built lots of kind of opportunities around him that was all around peer support. And I just remember him carrying all his stuff and walking out of the prison saying, "Soon, sir." And with that, off he went. Over that kind of 6 months, I think he just slowly, I guess, just became increasingly disillusioned by how much support was actually out there, how many opportunities he was actually going to get. And he just kept on getting knocked back, whether that was around jobs, that was around his art. I know that his probation officer went off, and so he lost that kind of continuity and he just disengaged essentially. And it was a real worry. And then of course getting a dreaded phone call saying that he had taken his life about 6 months post release. And I just kind of thought, it was so tragic at the time, and we all got together as a team and as a community. The prison community absolutely loved Danny. Danny was the life and soul of the prison in some ways. So we kind of were sad he was going in some ways because he brought so much joy. But it was about what can we do? What can we do to upgrade justice? What can we do to make things better? So the next Danny coming out of that prison feeling alone and isolated and not that they have anywhere to belong, how could we address that, I guess?
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, there's just something really personal about the app. I think when others have got involved in it, of course, our co-founder, Cam Stevens, he's also been integral to the development of the app and a real ambassador for it, as well as other people with lived experience have come on board to support it, to co-create it. And, hundreds of people have contributed to its design because we want it to be really meaningful and personal, and for it to communicate a message, which is you're not alone. And so yeah, I think justice needs a little bit more positive feeling sometimes, because justice can be a pretty dark place, but we need to maybe try and capture the light and understand why do things work, and that's the whole, I guess, the TripAdvisor bit, isn't it? That if you rate those services and you tell them the impact that they've made, we could maybe help other organizations that are doing great stuff get that funding they need in order to be sustainable. So yeah, that's my why.
Yeah, no,
um,
absolutely. And I absolutely resonate with a lot of what you've just said there. You've got individuals who may have found the right support within the prison, and therefore they've got that support when they come out, or they've got a fantastic probation officer who's given them some really good contacts, which is great. But you have so many that come out and maybe move to an area they don't know, and all of a sudden they're kind of left to fend for themselves. I think that sense of belonging that you talked about, that need to feel hopeful, that will only come when they feel that they've got someone who's been where they've been, who's created some resources and support and given them access so they can really start to build their life. So I think and I hope, whilst we're never going to be able to do it on the ground for everyone, we could
Mhm.
hopefully at least connect them to people on the ground so that they're not that alone, and that, like you said, don't end up in a similar situation to Danny.
Yeah. And I guess extending our questions of why, there's maybe a question to the loyal listeners around why would you want to get on the growth app? What's in it for individuals that engage in it? And I guess there's three, well, there's maybe even four, but there's three kind of key groups of people that we can support, I guess, on the growth app. The first one is the hero. And then we have who is the person coming out of prison, or the person who's at risk of offending, or the person that's whose journey it is essentially. And then we've got the kind of buddies, which are the people around them that support them. And then we've got the kind of providers or the guides that are all the lovely charities with big hearts doing all this wonderful stuff, as well as, other third sector organizations, private organizations. So why would you want to, if you came out of prison, why would you want to sign up for the Growth App? What talk us through what it is like for that hero and what might be beneficial for them?
Yeah, let's break it down. So the different users that you've got, you talked about, one of them is the person who is reintegrating back into society. So today that might be the prison leaver, tomorrow it might be a veteran or a care leaver or a refugee or someone who's homeless. It really can expand to have all types of heroes on board. But I would say somebody who is coming out or looking to kind of reset themselves, they're never going to be able to join when the same way that they were when they first were removed from society, or when they were not there on the day to day. So for those individuals coming in, it's almost like asking someone to walk again, right? They need to go through rehab, they need to go through with that sort of support system. So what this will do will allow them to be able to track their progress. It will allow them to be able to have access to resources, to find individual guides that they can use as mentors or they can arrange meetings with, to journal, to be able to look for jobs, to be able to volunteer, and to be able to basically set themselves a little bit like you would a health app. It's a bit of a growth map. So you choose the pathways, you choose the things that you want to do. And then what it does is it starts to build that out for you. And as you achieve each milestone, you're actually going to get rewarded for it. If you don't turn up, you miss something, or you're feeling low, then maybe it will reach out to the rest of your ecosystem so that they can support you. So it's that almost sort of support in a pocket, but something that will allow you to be able to use the options. Because if we have options, we have hope. When there's no options, then obviously we can go a different direction. So that's what it does for the hero. If you're only going to see your probation officer once a week, this could be your friend every day. So that's what it does for the hero coming in. For the buddy, that could be, a sibling, it could be a friend, it could be anyone who is really interested in supporting someone who is on that journey. What it does is it provides a way to connect with them. But if the individual is doing fantastically well and achieving the milestones towards recovery or towards re-entry, then you might get a little message to say, hey, Sarah's doing really well. She's turned up for her meeting. She's hit XY milestones. You might want to give her a ring and congratulate her. And equally, if it's the other way around, Sarah has scored a low mood score for the last 3 days in a row, or she hasn't turned up to a meeting, you may want to check in on her and see if she's okay. It just allows you to be able to be that support and holds the individual accountable to some degree, because they also know they've got a buddy, they've got someone there as a support level. The other users include, we talked about guides. Guides are basically charities or CICs. And the concept here was someone who can help you on your journey as a guide. So those people who provide a service, whether it's in employment, in housing, whatever it may be, you have the opportunity here to come on board as a charity or CIC, and you can either look at this as a way to be able to get to a much larger audience. So people who wouldn't normally come through the usual referral routes could come to you via this referral route, and they could fill in a referral form. They could just get in contact with you directly because you happen to be on the app. They'll be able to maybe use some of the resources that you put on there, but it gives you exposure. It also gives you an opportunity to signpost to other specialists that perhaps are not your wheelhouse. You might be very good at accommodation, but actually would like them to benefit from well-being or benefit from substance misuse support or something else. It allows them to be able to do that. And if they choose to, and we're not looking to complicate things or give them lots of additional systems to manage, but if they chose to put people through the app, then as the individual is going through that journey, it gives them some sort of oversight to say, this individual is logging in daily, this individual is achieving those milestones. And so from an impact point of view, I suppose this is one of the things we got back when we were co-designing this with charity owners, is that they spend an awful lot of time measuring the impact rather than being able to, spend time on the ground doing the impact And so this actually does it for you. So just like you'd measure or you'd be able to track a parcel from depot to door, every single thing that the hero is doing is in essence being recorded, it's being time stamped. And if you wanted to get a printout of all of your heroes, where they are on that journey, you've got a bit of an idea. What we're looking to hopefully build with time as we grow this is for them to be able to see how they're doing against the national average. How are they doing in their pathway in their area versus others in their area? So, how would you be able to use some of that anonymized data to increase the levels, make that watermark a little bit higher, be rated or reviewed in greater levels than perhaps otherwise? So, hopefully, with time, as the ecosystem builds, what they'd be able to do, Sarah, is see how their work is having real meaningful impact in comparison, which I'm sure a lot of funders and philanthropists would benefit from being able to see. And I think the last user type, which we haven't touched upon yet, but is there, and it's a dream, but we would love to be able to work with some of the larger agencies, government agencies like the NHS, like HMPPS, like the DWP, etc. So where you have a large charity, maybe, I don't know, 200 plus staff, or you've got large agencies where they want a continuation of care. They want to be able to see what's happening with an individual over a period of 6 months, a year. They could potentially take a license, and that would allow them to be able to also have some insight into what's working. Because you sort of said about Danny, he grabbed all this stuff and said, "See you later, says," and that sort of thing. It's like, well, a lot of people who've done some amazing work within the establishments would love to know what's happened with these individuals once they've left. But, if they chose to keep in touch as buddies, they could still see through the app how well someone has progressed. We hope that, as I said, in time, rather than it just being a monitoring process, that we have, systems in place to ensure that there's real support and care well after they've left the gate.
Yeah. And there is functions, there's currently functions where you can message directly in the app, isn't there, in terms of guides can talk to their heroes that are on their books, maybe. I think the beauty is, and it reminds me of when I went to one prison and I remember someone saying we did a really great project which was all around employability, and we were able to get this particular guy a job on release, but because just generally he wasn't very well and he didn't have those other things in place, that stability in place, he was just unable to. He really wanted the job and he went out with all intentions that he was going to do it. But I think sometimes we don't look at the whole picture and the whole person. And I guess the point for me of the app and the way in which it's designed is it does look at that. It looks at home, so creating that stability. It looks at relationships. It looks at how we cope. It looks at well-being. And for me, there's something about if we are able to get some of those foundations in place, then employment is going to be more likely and to be more successful. But just seeing an individual as a whole and recognizing that they also have strengths and resources, and it being really strengths-based, like a lot of the stuff that's happening in justice at the moment, which is wonderful to hear. That is something that's really important. But also, when you were talking there about understanding how things are going, I think there's something for me about, if I was a police and crime commissioner, let's say, and I commissioned a number of services, all of which were on the app, and we could essentially tag that to say, right, these are Sarah's kind of commissioned services, and I could then gather all of that kind of impact and all of that kind of data in a really cohesive way to know there's standard points of reference, there's a standard measurement of success. And with that, I'm able to look across all my services and find out what's the impact of them, what's the engagement of them, how many people are getting referred, and it's not the whole picture, of course, because things happen outside of our app. It gives us some really valuable insights into things. So yeah, I think the data side of it's really exciting, but also we talked a lot about data, haven't we, in terms of it being shared on the terms of the hero. So the hero having choice in terms of, can my data be used anonymously for social good, but having some choices around that, just so that we keep that information. We recognise how precious that information is and that we're trusted with that information, but it's being done for good and it's being done on the terms, I guess, of those heroes that are engaging in the apps.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to sort of jump in there. So for the hero, one of the concerns when we went around and we did the co-design and we spoke to people was they didn't want to feel like they were being monitored. And so they have the choice of who actually gets to see their data. when they're asking for referrals, they're giving access to their data. And that sort of helps and supports them in some ways as well, because rather than having to relive their trauma and go through everything again and again and again, sometimes as easy as just clicking to give access to data, which is fantastic. But at the same time, you might have finished with a particular probation officer, or you're no longer buddies with someone anymore. Well, that doesn't stop you from being able to go in and just go, right, I don't want this person to see my data anymore. So it is very much down to the individual who they give access to. But like you rightly said, if we can get it to a point where we can see what success looks like and people are willing to share that, then we might be able to nudge them like you do with, I don't know, something on Netflix, and you go, these are the other recommended things for you to watch. We might be able to say, well, look at John and look at Steve and look at whoever and what journey they've had. And they had a very similar starting point. So you might want to consider similar pathways. So yeah, the idea is that this is going to become somewhere as a way to be able to reference in time what are the correct pathways, who are doing some real meaningful work, and how we can get more people out of this revolving door and hopefully keep them where they need to be, living their best lives.
Yeah, that's it. And for those that are maybe members of the public and don't know prison life or don't know kind of criminal justice too much, I think we want to support people in being good neighbours, right? That's the thing. We want to reduce victims, and rehabilitation and growth is part of that. And if we can do anything to contribute to that, then we are serving our communities, a lot better. And that's something that means a lot, I think, to both of us. I
Mhm.
also love the idea that you've got a hero that has got all of that experience and knowledge of being released from prison, and we don't do anything with that knowledge. It all sits there. If you think about the thousands of people every year that come out of prison, and they all go through theoretically exactly the same process with that the 70 odd quid that you get on release and all this kind of stuff, and you think, wouldn't it be great if we could create an environment where that information could be kind of gathered and could be used for the next person coming out those gates tomorrow, so they know that they're not alone, that others have walked that kind of road.
Yeah. So to
Um,
bring a bit of inspiration to their journey or give them a bit of hope, imagine if, coming out a week later, they've got a little video message there, or a month later, or if they have a question that they ask the community, you've got someone who's been where they have, and you can tell them that it's okay to take it slow. It's okay if they're not earning as much as they expected immediately, or if they've had a knockback from a job. So, these sort of things make so much more value add to someone who feels alone or doesn't know exactly which direction to go in, when they've got people that they can turn back to. So yeah, it's very much about building something that has real meaning and will hopefully be something that will give them that scaffolding support that is so desperately needed.
I guess there's also scope, and we talk a lot about different things that we want to do to develop it.
We do. Yeah.
It has so many possibilities, doesn't it? I kind of think about families. I imagine families feel really isolated when they've got people in prison that they love, not knowing how to support them best, or if they're getting released on tag, for example, in the house and they've never gone through that process before. I just kind of think it is ecosystem, in the sense of it is a community, it is a digital community where people just get it. And I think when you talk to people that get it, you don't feel that, maybe that isolation, and you hopefully don't feel that judgment that comes with it, and that stigma that comes with it. And that would be, if we can develop it to such a point where it's, justice 10.0, and we've got this beautiful app that is really agile, but also really responsive to the needs of our community. I don't know where it will go. It could go somewhere really, really wonderful. And we've also, spoke to lots of people internationally and lots of organisations that are really, really excited about it. So where is it right now? What does it look like? How might people find out more about it? Yeah, where are we at?
Yeah, absolutely. Just picking up on what you said before we go into that, I think even the tagline is where people help people. So I think it's very much about, isn't it? Like, what can this become tomorrow? That's really exciting to see kind of the opportunities that may come about. In terms of where it is today, the app is live on the app stores. So, whether you're a Apple or an Android user, we finally managed to get it up there. So a lot of people were saying, when is it going live? It's great, but when is it going live? We've done that. We've had around about 6 months worth of, or 7 months worth of beta testing. So we've had individuals come on, try and break it, tell us what's wrong, help us shape it. This needs doing or that needs doing. And we've been slowly working away. I think April is probably by the date I'm expecting us to have completed all of that. And literally all the iterations that are coming in are being sort of developed in the background. So, in terms of where we are right now, we are having still lots and lots of conversations. We're having both heroes and guides joining us. And the feedback that they're giving us is really helpful because it's helping us to shape something that is truly co designed by everyone. We're having conversations with potential bodies who might be interested in funding us. So there's bids going out, there's grants being applied for, and there's pilots being discussed. So we're having lots of conversations with both the private prisons and HMPPS. We're speaking with various charities about how we could potentially roll this out, even if it's a small pilot in some specific geographic location. But the idea is that, if there is anyone out there who loves the vision, who sees what we're trying to build and wants to be part of it, and for them to just kind of like get in touch. There's no costs at the moment. There's no barrier to entry. We just want feedback because I truly believe, as I said, if we build something where everyone has had a chance to contribute, it will be a lot richer than if it was just purely something that, you and I tried to do alone. So this is really for everyone, and then hopefully it's something that will be bigger than all of us.
Lovely. And if all of this works out and we can, it becomes what we want it to become, what would it look like? What do you think, what is your upgrade? So what does the future look like for you? What impact would that have, do you think, if we got it to where we wanted to get it? And yeah, we got the grants, we got the funding, we got the pilots.
I mean, I'd love for this to be rolled out nationally and maybe even internationally. I think that it has a real potential to be that supporting bridge between, probation, charities, and people, and allow us as a community to really sort of start to help people to reintegrate. So it's no longer just a case of trying to achieve funding objectives or trying to meet commissioners' KPI objectives. It just becomes a natural way of doing things. If somebody is at any point in junction kind of looking to reintegrate, they've got a platform like a TripAdvisor or a Booking.com or whatever it might be, where they can go in and they can kind of really choose the pathways that work specifically for their needs. And then they can be sort of supported along that journey, and we can see that progress. They can see that progress. I think each person, as I said, we look at them as a human being first. If we can get them to a point of where they're living their best life, then I'd love for the growth to have played some small part in that journey.
Yeah, that would be so great, wouldn't it? I think it would just be wonderful. For me, there's just something about feeling the energy of it. Culture change comes when you convene like-minded people. And I kind of think the growth app is that community where everyone's on board with growth, whether it's their own growth and their own development, or whether it's the growth of a loved one, or whether it's the growth of the people that they serve. For me, it's about like-minded people coming together and the power of that to bring about culture change. But do it on in a trauma-informed way, in a responsive way, and a meaningful way. Call to action, for unapologetic call to action. Please have a look at the Growth app, download it, play with it, break it. Let us know how we can make it better. If you're a provider or a guide, please get on it, and so we can set up the stalls, we can set up the shops for our people to come through and get what they need in order to grow just an extra 1% each day. And if there's anyone who's interested in learning a bit more about it, Sid, the director, is our man. But also contact me as well through either LinkedIn, or the details will be at the bottom of the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. So if you are listening to this, then it will all be on Growth Uncut in terms of those details that you can get in touch with Sid or myself. And also I will send you a link to the website, which tells you a little bit more about it. But yeah, we are really excited about it. I'm pretty sure, and I don't know about you, Sid, but I haven't met anyone who's seen it and just said, well, that's a rubbish idea.
Yeah.
Everyone is so on board with it in terms of it as a concept. It's just about making it making it a reality now and getting some support for that. So yeah, if you're part of that solution, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that plug, and thank you for sharing what it is that we're working towards, which is fantastic. I think for any hero who is coming to this, I think it's going to hopefully help you and support you. And it's been built by people who've been where you've been. So I think that that's a straightforward reason why you should be considering to look into this. And for the charities, I know that there's so many that I speak with in this space, 1,700 according to Clinks, that are doing some amazing work, perhaps are not big enough to get some of these government grants or get some of these sort of commission services available. So where you're looking to really kind of create visibility and measure impact, again, we want to try and bring you onto the same platform so that you can be found, you can be seen, and that you can spread that goodness that you're doing. So yeah, I'd really love for, we've talked about it a lot, haven't we, Sarah, about there being some way to do this. And I know there's lots of alliances out there. I know there's lots of networks out there. We're not trying to become another alliance or another network. That's not what we're here to do. We just thought, what can we do that will actually help to bridge the gap? And I think by using us as a system that signpost that, hopefully what it will do is it will just bring together all of those workers working in silo, all of that good work being done up and down the country, and just make it a lot more visible for those who need it most.
Yeah. And if you are part of a network or lead a network, if you have a network and you just kind of think, yeah, get in touch and we can onboard the network, that would be wonderful. Or we could send something out in your newsletter if you need content or whatever it is. We just want to convene a space which is really is positive, particularly at times that are dark sometimes. So I would love that idea of being able to find, seeing a big bid and thinking there's no way I can manage that, but maybe on the growth app I could find another Kicks that could help me and we could partner up together. It's got so many possibilities, but ultimately it comes down to connection, relationships, and growth. And we all need a bit of that.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I think it's like you said, it's network effects, isn't it? If you've got a resource library that everybody has contributed towards, you've got something that's going to make a real difference in people's lives. It's no longer something that you're just ticking boxes for. It's actually something that has real meaningful change, attributed to it. So yeah, I'd love to have conversations with anyone who might be interested in building something that's bigger than them. And yeah, let's do it together. Um, I'm not after applause. I'm not after anything like that. This is a cause that's bigger than all of us. So, if we can all contribute towards it, it'd be great to see what comes.
lovely. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to talk to you always.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.